Well, hi everyone, Casey Truffo here, and welcome to class 2 of Write Your Website Copy in a Week. So excited to have you guys here. If you're watching on demand, meaning watching the recording later, then welcome. I'm so happy that you are here and able to watch and listen at your leisure. So if you'd like, don't forget we have our Facebook group set for you, so you can go to I, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, li.com/webgroup. I, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, li.com/webgroup. Put in your website copy, and your peers will be able to help you comment on it. Feel free to read what I'm saying on other people's, because I think that many people have the same issues. So if I say it on one or two people, hopefully we can replicate that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about a few things that I've found out by looking at your copy, those of you that posted it already in the Facebook group. That is a private Facebook group, so we're able to post things and nobody sees that but those of us that are in the group. All right, so I hope you're enjoying that part. So let's see. I have 5 questions that came in from people that I'm going to answer. I'm going to talk about some things that I saw when I went through the Facebook group, some of the copy that's in there. And then I have some things that I pulled out of Juliet's talk that you have access to in your resource center that I think is really important. And it's one of the things that we're kind of missing on some of the copy that I read. And then if we have time, I'm making a note here. If we have time, I'll talk a little bit about design. All right. So, yay us! I'm very excited to be here with you today. All right. So, let's talk about headlines in the homepage copy. But before that, I want to tell you, those of you that have taken action, you have just totally warmed my heart. It makes me so happy to see that you've taken action. And if you haven't yet taken action, then I'm going to invite you to hurry up and do so, because you need to be online with client attracting website copy, and let's just do it, get it done, and put it in, as we say, put it in the can, and then you can go back and edit it later if you want, but at least you've got something and you've got something done. So let's make sure that we get this done quickly. And what really warmed my heart was hearing from so many of you that said you'd been putting this off, but with a deadline. And I said, try to get your homepage copy done by today, that you actually went out and did that. So awesome. Don't forget to go into your resource center. You have the 2 audios from Julia and me, one on headlines, which I encourage all of you to listen to, and then the one on website copy mistakes, which is also a good one. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's a very good one to listen to as well. And then you have that cool audio in there from Mark Silver about setting your fees, which is just sort of something that I think we all can get some more input on. So, yay you! Okay, so let's see. Excuse me. Headlines. On your homepage, about 80% of the people will read your headline and nothing else. So, the purpose of your headline is to connect with them, to let them know that you get them. It can be a statement of the outcome that they want. It could be a question that they would answer yes to. I used to say, and in some of my old materials, I said, put in questions that they would answer yes to, like maybe 3 of them. But our audience is more sophisticated now. And if you say, would you like to be happier? It's sort of like a no-brainer, like wouldn't everybody want to be happier? So you want to really think that through. So I would consider your headline extraordinarily carefully. Now, some of you decided to put 4 and 5 headlines in there, and I'm not recommending that. Okay, so I would cut that down to 1 or 2, a heading and a subheading, a lot more simple. You want that to either be a statement of a benefit, all right, or you either want that to be a statement of a benefit or an outcome that they would want or a question they might have. So if you just said, are you tired of arguing with your spouse? Well, like, who isn't? So that might not be the right way to say it, but I want you to like sit down and imagine that a client that you extraordinarily care about is sitting right across from you, and that in your heart you have this love for that person, and you're hearing what they have to say, you're connecting with them, and then maybe something will come up. Now, Juliet will tell you in her thing she did on headlines that she might write down 30, 40, 50 headlines before she comes up with one. So don't be afraid to experiment. Pick something just to get going, because we're trying to get past procrastination. Remember, light and easy. That's the whole point, light and easy. Right? Letting the wisdom inside of you, the part that's calling you to do this healing work, letting that bubble up, the things that you say over and over again, be there. All right? Okay, so headline. The other thing about a headline is you don't want to make it so painful that they would turn away. Like for years, I'm going to self-disclose here. For years, people would tell me that you have low self-esteem. And I'll tell you that if you started a website page with, do you have low self-esteem? That would hurt me too much, and I would run away. So if you said, are you tired of trying to be perfect? It feels like no matter what you do, it's not enough for some people. That would have attracted me. I'm not sure if you can see the difference. If you're in the chat, if you could put in there, if you can see the difference, that would be helpful for me. The idea being that you want to tiptoe into the level of intimacy that they're offering you. So if you said, have you suffered horrible trauma and been abused by everybody in your life and now thinking of suicide, that might be too much intensity for a headline. There may be times when you're willing to be intense and other times when you're not. So one of the things often in your copy that I go back to is that I ask you to remember that your ideal client is sitting in front of you. And we're all our ideal client, right? We're all our ideal client. So if we're sitting there on a good day, I wouldn't think I had a self-esteem issue. I would think, what's that? Why are you saying that? So we want to tiptoe through it. So maybe not in the headline, but or maybe, I don't know. So does it feel sometimes like you just can't get through to your kids? Or do you often worry if your kids are making the right mistake? Or excuse me, if you're making the right decisions, do you often wonder or worry about the mistakes that your kids are making? So do you see what we're saying? So Summer says her headline is discovering the tools to feel better. Now, if your ideal client is waking up at 3 a.m. going, oh my God, I need tools to feel better, then that would be the perfect headline. And if so, Summer, you have nailed it. On the other hand, if you said something like, it's time to feel better, okay? Because see, sometimes when we're not feeling better, the idea of having tools is a real cognitive concept. And this is really advanced now, guys. This is really advanced. So if it's not making sense, then just relax. Do your mindfulness stuff. Your website homepage is about emotion. That's where people are going to make the decision to hire a therapist or a coach, is through their emotion. Later, they're going to want to think rationally, is this a good idea? So the idea of tools and discovery is not a bad thing, except it's not emotional, it's more practical. So this is where I just invite you to think about saying, it's time to feel better, Summer. I mean, that's just an idea. If your headline is working for you and you're getting lots and lots of hits and people are responding, then never change anything. That's another thing I want to say. I know some of you have websites like Up the Yin Yang and lots of good stuff on it. If it's working for you, leave it be. All right? Don't touch anything. Let it be. Leave it be. I'm sure I'll get the grammar police here to help me with that. You don't want to change anything if it's working. Now, Summer in response says, the reason why is because back when I first did my website, people were telling me I want tools. And Summer, I will agree with you if they say that on the intake call. Because remember, your headline is basically is pre-intake call. So it's what do they know, what do they say, what do they believe? And that's why I invite you guys to make sure you start tracking what it is they say on the website or on the intake call. All right? So awesome. So let me just go on that same part on the homepage then. Some of you, what I saw in the Facebook group, and again, if you want to get into that Facebook group, it's intli.com/webgroup. That will give you the link, and you can ask to join, and then we will approve you within about 24 hours, and then you can post your stuff, and you can go in there and comment on each other's stuff. We'll leave that open for a while. So one of the other things I saw is that there wasn't a nice split between the amount of connecting with their situation in the beginning and the hope and then the call to action. Sometimes there was so much pain that I wanted to get off the page because I was hurting, right? So there's a connecting with their pain and a recognizing that you get them. That was good. But then move into the hope and then move into the call to action and make sure that it's not so much pain that the person would want to get off. And again, where possible, you might need to soften it with the word always or sometimes. All right. So Lil says, what do you think about my website? Discover what's stopping you. Again, if your ideal client wakes up at 3 a.m. in the morning and goes, oh my God, I need to pay somebody to help me find out what's stopping me, then that's the perfect headline. All right. So it goes back to what are they looking for? What do they want to pay for? Now, some of you had headlines that I questioned on the Facebook group as to whether people would want to pay for that. Now, if I knew everything, I'd charge a lot more money and make a lot more money, but I don't know everything. But you do. So some people said, do you want more joy? Like that was an opening line in one of them. And the comment that I put on there was, are people wanting to pay for more joy? I just cracked myself up. I mean, I guess there are some professions where they do pay for that. But we as therapists, I don't know if people wake up and want to pay a therapist for, do you have more joy? All right. So this is where you have to think about it. Now, if people are calling you and on intake, they're saying, I really need to come and see you and I'm wanting to pay your full fee because I need more joy, then you have nailed it. All right. So that's where you want to keep paying attention to what it is they're saying on these calls. All right. The others, you jumped around so much in terms of specialties in that first paragraph. Okay. So before I go there, Barbara says, no, nobody said that to me. It was her website where she said, do you want more joy? And then Barbara, one of the things I also noticed in your website, let me see if I can bring that up here. One of the things I also noticed in your website was that you started on one track and you talked about, do you want more joy? And it was all sort of happy. And then it turned into, or, it might have been yours, or do you, forgive me here, I'm just trying to bring it up. Do you want more joy, or has your life become unmanageable? Something like that. That's just what I remember. And based on that, that was sort of like, well, wait a second. We're talking about joy and happiness, and now all of a sudden I'm running into it being unmanageable. So that's where I got a little confused. I'm not sure if that was yours, Barbara, or somebody else's, but just to notice that you don't want to be jumping all over the map. That's kind of a copywriting mistake. So pause, push the pause button, relax, and figure out, wait a second. This is where I am. This is where I'm going for. Now, if you have a niche market, you can market to that. And we can debate that 7 ways to Sunday. But if not, let's take all of those that you have and try to come up with what they might have in common. All right, the emotions. So somebody asked this on the last call, and we were talking about, well, if you're working with kids and parents and couples, what are the issues that they might all have in common? And can you write to that on your homepage? All right. So those are just some things I saw on the homepage. The other error, and this is actually an error. This isn't a suggestion. This is an error. So pay attention to this. This is about the emotion of your site, of your homepage especially. We start with their pain or the outcome that they want. We normalize, how can I say this? Connect with their situation in that first paragraph on your homepage. And then we move into the hope. What some of you did, and it's so normal, but I notice when I do this myself, I have to be really careful. What some of you did is you went into hope and then you went back into the pain. You don't want to do that. All right. So you want to, once you move them into the hope, continue with the hope and then move them into the call to action. So I'm going to see if I've got, Stephanie offered to let me read hers a little bit here. So let me see if I've got it here. She says, you are here because, I might say, you might be here because, okay, or you're here because sometimes you, I'd soften it a little bit, are tired of feeling rejected or sad or disappointed. Maybe you suffered the loss of a special relationship, divorce, depression, and the inevitable realization that life has not turned out quite the way you'd hoped. These experiences can come like a bolt from the blue. You may have felt so suddenly blessed. You may have felt so blessed, so lucky, looking forward to the rest of your life, and then suddenly your joy was replaced by huge sadness. See, I might reorder that and say something like, so what happened? I might make that the headline. So what happened? You know, there was a time when I was feeling so good and things were going so well. And then out of the blue, this stuff happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And then she writes, you may feel stuck. Now we just went from there being a life event and now we're moving into stuck. Those are two different places. But, you know, you might say maybe this has caused you to feel stuck or something like that. And I don't blame you. I understand that feeling. I've been there too. Even though it's easier to get drawn into dwelling on what you don't want in your life, you can't help but notice that there are other days when you almost feel like your old self again. Could this mean there's hope? Yes, it does. And then she goes, if you're feeling like you've almost lost sight of what makes your heart sink. So you went into, Stephanie, could this mean there's hope? Yes, it is. Then you want to move into it, not take them back if you've almost lost sight of their pain. You know, if you've almost lost sight of what your heart sings and want to reconnect with possibilities for your future, the question I ask is, do people wake up at 3 a.m. and say that in their head and want to pay for it? I'm questioning that, Stephanie. But could this mean there's hope? Yes, it does. Let's get together and talk about what might work or, you know, what might make you feel better. I don't want you to hurt like this. I think there's hope. Let's talk about it. I can't wait to hear your story. My name is Stephanie, and here's my number. Okay? So that would be my suggestion on that and on the thing. And many of you will see that. You'll talk about, here's the pain. I know you got the pain. But hey, guess what? It could be better. It really can be better. And then you go back to talking about the pain. That is an error, and that will get people off your site. So it's kind of an advanced concept, but you guys are ready for it. Okay? So somebody's asking if I can give a headline or two. It takes me hours to come up with a headline, and I don't do that for other people because I can't even hardly do it for myself. But the bottom line is that the only person that has your headline ought to be you. And the way that you get your headline is you tap into, what are they thinking? What are they waking up at 3 a.m.? What are they and worrying about and want to pay for? What do they say on intake? And then write down 10, 20, 30 of those and then pick one. That's the way that you come up with your headline. Okay? All right. Okay, so that's some of the stuff I said to some of you, I wrote the amount of pain, hope, and your call to action was a little bit off. So I wanted to do that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is where you put your story. Okay, where you put your story. Some of you put your story in the middle of your homepage. And that's kind of an interesting idea. But remember, we want to be talking about the client. The whole point of the homepage is to get them to understand that you know what they're talking about. But if you start talking about you, it's kind of like being at a dinner party, right? And somebody says, how's it going? And you say, oh, the most horrible thing happened. And I say to you, what was that? And you say, well, I was in this horrible car accident. And I start to tell you all of it. And then you say to me, well, I've been in a car accident. And then you start talking about your car accident. I feel that you've taken it away from me and I don't feel heard or connected. So it's a little tricky because it's a one-way conversation in the website, but you don't want to take it off of them without going to the I understand, I get it. It doesn't have to be this way. I'd like to help. All right. On your about page, most likely is the place to where you want to talk about your story. Now, we talked last time about sometimes it's your story and sometimes it's your story. Make sure if it's your story, it's something that's been fully processed and would not cause them to jump back. All right. So here's a good example. I worked with somebody who had lost a child. She was a therapist whose child had died, and she was working in grief and loss, and she was working with people who had lost children. So the question was whether to put that on her site or not. And on one hand, from a marketing perspective, can't get much better than that, all right? And it's like I get it, But from a clinical standpoint, her belief was that when people knew she had lost a child, that her clients either were too scared to talk about their pain for fear they would hurt her, or they felt in some way that they needed to take care of her. So she chose to leave that off, and she chose to tell it in a third person, a family member. In our family, we lost somebody we really loved, etc. And then it was processed. Those of you that have abuse histories and things like that, while it may be fully processed for you, you want to think about whether you're going to put that on your site as to how somebody who doesn't know you would respond to that. Okay? So everything that you write on any of your pages, you want to write in service of the client and connecting with the client. And sometimes telling our own story helps a lot, but just watch where it might cause a problem with your potential clients. All right, so just be clear on that. And if you have a question, have somebody that you trust look at it or put it in the website group, and we can give you some feedback on that. Okay? Let's see. A couple of things on design. This is where design is in the eye of the beholder. And my preference is not to have a dark background with white lettering. It's hard for me to read that. So you might want to think about, when you look at your website, when you create it, does it look easy to read? Is the print font easy to read? Is it easy for my potential client to read it? Okay. Let's see. Barbara says, for friends and family, especially who've been in therapy, they're great for giving feedback. And if they're honest, and I usually recommend that you share it with your family. That's fine. But a little bit, they don't count because, and Barbara, you may be lucky that you have a great family that can do this. But a lot of times they have an agenda, which is either if they love you, they want to help you and make it better, and they know you. And then sometimes they have an agenda, like they're, with some people's family, there's a little bit of criticism or jealousy in there. So yes, Barbara, if your family is like that, you're very, very lucky, and that's awesome. For those of us who don't have that kind of family, feel free to test it out with people that you don't know. Again, going through what your clients are looking for. Now, some of you have things like embracing possibilities. You want to write this for like a 12-year-old, okay? And I even think a little bit younger, because you're writing on emotion, meaning you're trying to appeal to the emotion in the person. And if you use cognitive words, there's a possibility that you pull them out of the emotion and thus away from calling them. All right? So just watch that you're doing that. Okay? The other thing I want you to pay attention to is, let me think for just a second. Any of you, once again, specialize in 59-year-old women who have short-term memory loss, feel free to give me your cards. Make sure your personality comes through on this. If you're very cerebral, you can be a little bit more cerebral. If you're more kind-hearted, let that show through. Just like I said, imagine you're talking to somebody in the room. Okay, I'm going to go through the web questions now that some people wrote in and sent in to us, and then let's see, well, that's what we'll do. And then if you have more questions, again, if you want to put those in the chat, that would be great. If there's anybody on the phone that has a question, if you're calling in on the phone and you want to press *2, I will indeed take a question. All right, I've got a question here from Portland. Hold on. Okay, you're on.
Thank you so much for this. This is very helpful.
Yes.
I have a question about headline and just want to run it by you and see what you think. Do you want to live from your full potential?
Yeah, exactly. So do ideal clients wake up at 3 a.m. and go, oh my God, I have to hire her because I need more potential?
I don't know that that's what you think about in the middle of the night.
Right. And so if you read that, would you want to pay somebody to help you reach your full potential?
Well, I would, but...
Okay, you would?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so are you doing that now?
With my work, yes.
Okay. So if you think that you would pay for that, and then you just want to intersect it with what people are asking for. Because remember, this is such a great question, because the headline is something that's precipitated them to look for. Are you a coach or a therapist?
Both.
And what is this website selling, coaching or therapy?
More therapy.
More therapy. Okay. So something has precipitated the fact that I had to, that it's the middle of the night and I, something has happened and I want to contact a therapist, right? So there's been this precipitating event. So based on that, what do you think they would want? What are they searching for?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sense?
Well, I think it's going to depend on the level of consciousness, what they're going to be chewing on in the middle of the night, and where they are developmentally.
Okay, so your ideal client, where do you think they are? Give me an example.
Well, I think that they are more looking for that, for, how do I really bring my gifts into the world?
Okay, all right. So then I would test that. I would put that out there. Okay.
So what you're encouraging is more, when you're saying, are you tired of being perfect or not being good enough?
No. I'm saying you want to figure out where your ideal client, what it is they're saying to you on the intake calls now, what it is that they're searching for. I just said that was an example of if they were calling you and saying they had low self-esteem, you might not want to use that. I'm not saying use that as a headline. So do you know what they are saying to you now on the intake calls?
Well, I have to really keep track of that.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a better... Now, what kind of therapy are you offering? Are you offering Jungian type therapy, or what type of therapy are you offering?
Yeah, Jungian is part of it.
Okay. The Jungian therapists attract more seeker types, and so I would test what you've got,
mm-hmm.
and then see where it goes. Does that help?
And how would you test it?
I would put it on your website, and then see if you get people responding to it. Okay, does that help?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so now I want to go into the questions that some people are having here. And let's see. Julia says, my question is again about writing other more specific pages. She talked about writing the homepage and that. She said, I'm a child psychologist and I invested in a brand new beautiful website. So you can imagine that having only 4 pages doesn't feel right. I've decided to add a page about the other services I provide. evaluations, parental coaching, teens, and I'm tempted to include 3 more on ADHD, behavior problems, divorce, and children, because these are many reasons why clients call. But I need some hints on how to write these pages in the same authentic spirit. All right, so first of all, Julia, I wouldn't put them all on one page, okay? So if you're going to, how can I say this? If people are calling you and saying, I would like what's one? I want parental coaching, okay? I want parenting coaching. Then I would I'm not sure what you're putting on your homepage if you're putting all these other pages, okay? To me, it's like I would put all of this on the homepage, and not in terms of different services, but in terms of the problems. Being a parent is really tough today. In some cases, our kids are doing things that we don't want them to do. In other cases, somebody might have suggested they have ADHD, and in some cases, blah, blah, and it's really hard to know how to work with them. Guess what? It doesn't have to be, I'd like to help, call me, all right? And to me, that's enough. But if you want more, just talk about it from the client's perspective. So if you decide you want to do a page on divorce and children, then I would do a page on, divorce and children. I would sit down and do it just like you did the homepage, okay? Sitting down and going, getting divorced is really tough. You want to help your children, et cetera, et cetera. And then put in some hope, and then don't wait one more day. I'd like to help. Same with, I guess I don't know that I would split ADHD and behavior problems unless there was a business reason to do so. So those are the kind of things that I'm thinking about. And then you talked about, I talked about having an option where visitors could click and get a free report. That's really more if you're trying to build an email list. You could have a free report there if you wanted to, but if you're trying to build an email list, that's where you ask them to give you their email in exchange for a free report. But if you're not planning on doing anything with those email addresses, then I wouldn't ask for it. So you could put free reports out there if you wanted to. She said do it on a resources page if you like, okay? Again, you have to sit down and think, what is the business purpose of my site, and how does this page help them? So I hope that was a question, okay? Amy says, I'm a coach, a life coach, and a therapist. How does the homepage differ? Amy, that depends on what the legal requirements are for both of those professions for you, or at least the therapy profession for you. Because in certain jurisdictions, you cannot have them on the same page, all right? So on the same website. In certain places, like I live in California, and in California, you cannot have coaching and therapy on the same website. Even you have to have them separate and look very different. You can't even talk about being a therapist on your coaching website. There's a lot of rules and things like that. So if there is no issue for you, then I would, again, sit down and talk about where is my ideal client coming from, and do they really need any help there? Okay, do they really need to know the difference between what coaching and therapy is? And again, if I just need help and I'm coming to your site, I may not want to know the difference. So that's kind of a side question, Amy. I just wish I could help. And again, I wouldn't separate them. If you don't have to separate them, I wouldn't separate them, and I would just talk to the emotion. Because again, if I'm getting a root canal, I don't care whether you're doing the Fred Swartz procedure or the Dr. Waller procedure. I just want my root canal fixed. So I don't think I, as a client, care so much whether it's coaching or therapy. I just want to feel better. All right. So Diane says, wondering if my specialty is trauma and grief, should I have a special page about each of these things? Nobody wakes up at 3 a.m. and goes, I have trauma. I think I want trauma. All right. Some precipitating event has happened. That's where you want to think about it. So, is it, are you struggling with this kind of grief? Think about what they would say. See, this is the way, that's such a great question, Diane, because we think in terms of trauma. We think in terms of DSM diagnoses. Our clients think in terms of problems or outcomes. So let's start using the language that they would use. And I don't know that I, as a client, could separate grief and trauma. I mean, just something bad happened and I hurt. All right. Okay. So let's see. Elke says, the question I have is one I posed before. I'm a hypnotherapist, and hypnosis is a tool that is useful for so many things. But often when I read hypnotherapist sites, the list of what is useful for is almost endless and starts to look like snake oil. Yes, perfect. That will cure anything, and I think it loses credibility. Of course, I do the usual quit smoking and weight reduction. I have a major in relationships and hypnobirthing practitioner, and hypnosis is super for fears and phobias of all kinds. The thing is that hypnosis is not a therapy but a tool, and why it is useful for and it's useful for so many problems. How do I encompass all that without sounding like a snake oil salesman? It is such a super great question, because I have a friend who's an acupuncturist, and she is convinced that people come to see her for about 6 different issues, back pain, infertility, stress management. And so we have on her website a page that talks about each one of those, because she feels very strongly that people come for those. And she's got navigational buttons that go to that. All right. So if that's where you are, and you could do that, you could talk about, if you're here, it's probably because, you don't want to say if you're here, but you could say something about, clearly there's something in your life that you'd like to be better. It might be you would like to quit smoking. It might be you'd like to reduce weight. It might be something else. I'd like to help. Feel free to look around the site and see, or pick a couple of specialties that are one, weight reduction, quit smoking. Start with one on the homepage and then have others pages. And then each one of those separate things you treat just like the homepage content. So you don't want to sell a process. Some of you on the web copy Facebook group were saying, how do I sell EFT? You don't sell EFT. You sell solution to their problem. Again, if I had the Portland sinus infection cure, do I really care about that? No, I just want to get rid of my sinus infection. All right. So I don't care the process that you use. All I care about, again, remember where the website is. It's the conduit that gets them to call you. It's the conduit that gets them to call you. All right. Okay. All right. So then Albert says, I want to know if Casey will be covering copywriting our website content. You really can't copy website content, copyright it. You can copyright intellectual property, and it will cost you tens of thousands of dollars to do that. So I don't recommend that you do that. And besides, what do you care? How many clients do you want? Write good copy. If somebody copies it, let them get their own clients. You're going to attract the people that you want. So I would relax on that, Albert. Okay. And I don't mean to be disrespectful there. I'm just saying that I don't think it's that big of an issue in terms of, don't be afraid. Okay. Now, if you've written some special thing that you're trying to go ahead and copyright in the patent office and all that, that might be different. Like if you have some kind of special technique that you're copywriting, that's different. I would talk to an attorney about that. But basic website copy, no. You can put copyright down in the bottom of your website copy and put copyright and the date by you, and it's not really like legal, but it doesn't hurt. Diane says, when we say EFT, what do we say when we say EFT, since people are looking for it? Diane, if you can prove to me that people are really searching for EFT, then I would have a separate page that talks about EFT. All right. I'm not convinced they are, but it's possible. It's possible. All right. Okay. So then the question number 4 is from Jonathan. And Jonathan asks if I will talk about therapysites.com, using that to build and host your website. Therapy Sites is a way to build your website. It's a templated system. It costs $60 a month. I personally think that that's very high for a templated system. You can go to Squarespace and get it for $20 a month. If you have a PC, not a Mac, but a PC, you can go to homestead.com and get it for about $20 a month. And you can go to Yahoo or Google sites. You can go to GoDaddy, much, much cheaper. I would consider doing a WordPress blog site. And if you want to know more about that, building that, you can go to Clinton Power. Check him out on Facebook at the marketinggeeks.com. Yeah, I would do, like I said, ours, most of them are WordPress blogs. They're a blog that we do on WordPress. We host WordPress. We don't do it on the WordPress site. We host it on our own thing. And that gets a little bit more into the technical. And I really wanted these calls to be more about writing our copy, because it's kind of easy to go find somebody to help you with the technical part, but it's not easy to get the copy completed, meaning that we procrastinated on it quite a bit. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we didn't. So when you're looking for a templated system, make sure that it is a templated, how can I say this? Make sure that it is something that doesn't look like everybody else's. All right. Now, when I talked about WordPress, I'm not talking about creating a blog that you blog like being a blogger. What I'm talking about is you use it as your homepage and you use it as a website with your 4 pages. All right. It's just you take those 4 pages, you say no sidebar, and it just makes an easy to update website. All right. So that is what I meant by WordPress. But again, hosting WordPress on you host it. And again, that's sort of beyond this call, but don't do it on the WordPress.org or whatever it is that they have. Okay. So I think I answered the question on therapy sites. Let's see. Now that I've been working on my content for a website, I'm thinking about registering on 2 of the directories. Should the content be different, or is it a good idea to have the same content? I would have almost exactly the same content, unless you are having different specialties. So here's what I mean. Let's say you really like working with eating disorders and teenagers. So I might do your website about teens, but then there are some online directories like Psychology Today or Find-A-Therapist, GoodTherapy.org, or Network Therapy. I might go to those and put my teen site up there, and then put there's some special sites that have eating disorders that are just eating disorder locators. And I might go there and put your eating disorder site. Excuse me a second here. Put your content for eating disorders over there. So that's like, I guess, the only place where I would make them different. Otherwise, I would make them almost exactly the same. Okay. So Barbara says, why not use the free WordPress? Couple of things. One is the free WordPress, they don't really want to be supporting your business. Okay. All right. It's like they're there for people to share their vacation photos or that kind of thing, their upcoming wedding stuff. But if you're going to be a business owner, you want to have something that looks like you are a real business and not just using a free service over on, WordPress. So it's both for your identity as a business, and I am afraid that someday they're going to look at all these sites and they're saying, wait, people are making money off of hosting their stuff on our site, and throw people off. They haven't done that yet, but I'm a little nervous that they might. Okay. And then let's see. Can I explain about buying domains and how to buy several and direct them to one? Yes. You can go to a couple of different places. Wherever you decide to host your website, you can go there and buy domains. So it might be on GoDaddy, it might be on Lunar Pages. We host all of our stuff on lunarpages.com. You go wherever it is that you're going to host your website, figure that out first. Then you go buy domain names. And the domain names might be counseling in your city, counseling in your zip code your counseling, whatever it is that, and then maybe there's something like hypnobirthinghelp.com or marriagehelp.com or something. All right. So make sure, the reason that I say figure out where you're going to host it first is because if you buy it, let's say you bought it from GoDaddy but decided to host it somewhere else, you now have to move it over there. And that move can take anywhere from a couple of days to 6 months. and you're not in control of that move. There's a whole lot of other people that have to be responsible for that. So it's just a whole lot easier if you figure out where you're going to host your website and then buy the domain name if they offer it there. All right. So that is really important. Okay. Then what you do is you get somebody that is a little more technical, and all they do is they point your whatever all those domains are that you buy to one place where your website is. All right. So let's see. If you have it at home, you buy it. If you buy it at Homestead, you can then buy the domain names from Homestead, and you can build it there. And then with Homestead, it's easy. You just point them all to that domain name. If you buy them at GoDaddy or something like that, you have to do something manual to point those into. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, we use lunarpages.com. They're not the least expensive. We found them to be the least troublesome. Okay. All right. So let's see. Did I answer that question? I think I did. Okay. If you're on the phone and you have another question, feel free to raise your hand by pressing *2. And Lil says, go back to the copy do's and don'ts. I've said a lot of the copy do's and don'ts already. It's not as if I've left anything out there. Let me see. I'm going to check my notes here, but I don't think I have. Just a couple minor things, and that is you don't want to have so much text because nobody's going to read all your text. So you want to have headings and subheadings because our eyes skim. Make your paragraphs short, like 4 characters or something like that. 4 sentences, 4 or 5 sentences. Don't make them very long. And again, you're writing to a 12-year-old audience. Okay, so let's see. And then I talked about making it scannable. And then one of the things I also saw in the Facebook group was that some of you wrote these really nice homepage part about the pain, and then you got into the hope and all of that, and you were really, really good about all that. And then you didn't say, and call me. I'd like to help. Some of you said, I can help. And be very careful of saying that you can help. Don't necessarily promise that you can help. I'd like to help. I'd like to hear your story. Okay, so just be a little bit careful about that. Okay. Clinton Power teaches a course on how to build a WordPress site. And he's at marketinggeeks.com, I think, or Google him, Clinton and Marketing Geeks. Miranda Palmer teaches a class on how to put it on Squarespace. It's pretty easy, though. I think if you're at all, slightly technical, you can do Squarespace pretty well. And that's where Judy Hokenauer's, Dr. Judy H., that was on Squarespace. Okay. All right. So let's see. I think those were the copy do's and don'ts. I'm going to look at one more here that we have on the Facebook web group here. Now, one of the reasons that I teach this class is because I don't do website reviews. All right. I'm not the greatest copywriter on the planet. Don't really like copywriting. I have enough trouble writing my own copy. So I don't do website reviews. So that's why I taught this copy to teach everything I know about websites. And then I turn you over to other people that if you're looking for website reviews, and that's why we have the Facebook group. So I'm going to look at Hillary's a little bit here. And Hillary says that she's not ready to specialize. And I think that I'm not necessarily recommending that you specialize, but I ask you, what does your ideal client kind of want when they call you? So think about it. So her opening line is, feel like history, addictions, depression, or anxiety has kept you from really living. Now, I really want you to sit down and ask you, Hillary, how many people may have said that to you on intake? Okay. To me, when you talk about history, addictions, depression, or anxiety, that's 4 different things all rolled up into one that people may not use that language. So and then you switch into want to have better relationships with all these other people. So now I'm talking about history, addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, all in 2 sentences. So I'm afraid that I'm going to think that you're a little bit all over the map, so I don't quite get the idea of this thing. All right. So what I might start with, Hillary, is just get a little more focused. Okay, make sure. Amber, can you help me? For those of you that want to, if you go to beawealthytherapist.com, and if you're listening live, it will be up there in about a week. It's not quite there yet now, but not quite there now. We will have the More Clients for Me class that you can download. It's a 4-hour training, video training with me that shows you how to do this ideal client and how to find this language for yourself. All right. So I'm hoping that will help. And then Amber, will you please put the ideal client exercise in the resource center for us here?
Yes, happy to.
Okay, thank you. And the ideal client resource, it's an exercise. I'm hesitant to put it in there. I'm putting it in there because Barbara's asking me to in the chat, but I'm hesitant to do so because people get stuck on this. So you have to promise me if we do the ideal client exercise, you won't spend more than a couple hours on it. All right, that's really important, okay? If you spend more than a couple hours on it, you're losing the point of it. So Hillary, I don't want you to specialize because you just passed your licensing exam. We give you a great big applause. You'll never forget that moment, getting that letter, I promise you. So I don't want you to specialize either. But I'm thinking that you might want to think about really what is it that they're complaining about and then start with that, I think, quite honestly, that most people come to therapy because they want someone else or something else to change. So those of you that had the word change, do you want to change on your website? I'm cautioning you against that. All right. Are you looking for new possibilities? For the most part, I'm going to caution you against that. Some people, again, if they call you on the phone and they say, I want more possibilities, then awesome. You've scored. But I'm cautioning you on that. All right. So Hillary, then you start talking about everyone has challenging times, and let's face it, some of us had difficulty. So I might start out with something like, are things not going the way that you thought they were? Or are those people driving you crazy? Or figure out what their complaint is and then start with the headline there. Okay. And then you said there's always opportunity for change no matter what. Again, I was only in practice for about 18 years, but nobody ever said to me, I'm looking for an opportunity for change. All right. Even in my coaching clients, I don't want to change. So think about whether that is something that they're wanting. Now, you do have a great line. If you're reading this, there's already hope. You believe that something can change. That is a really great copywriting line. So I really want you to do that. Having someone on your side who is open to understanding your unique circumstances, struggles, and dreams can help you get over hurdles and even uncover. Sound interesting? I may be a good fit. I might put, let's see if we're a good fit. All right. And then do that. So that's sort of my impact. Now, again, in the FAQs, remember that these are questions that people ask you when they call. So your first question, Hillary, is do you treat individuals, couples, and families? I'm guessing that people don't call you up and ask you that on the phone. All right. I'm guessing that's something that you think they should ask. All right. So if I were you, I would leave your frequently asked questions off for right now and start noticing what they do ask you on the phone call. What are their objections? What are their concerns about coming in? And then maybe put that in there. All right. That would be my recommendation for you. And again, don't have to do a market, but a specialty market or a niche market, but you do want to get into the emotion of it. All right. So I hope that helps, and congratulations and welcome to the field. Yay. All right. All right. We're nearing the end of this call, and I wanted to remind you that you guys all get a very, very special bonus. Besides all of the things that are in the Resource Center, and we still have the Facebook group up there, and you guys can go in there and share with each other your copy and give each other constructive feedback on that. I wanted to remind you that you all get a 75% discount off our More Clients for Me Pro version, Your Therapy Business Makeover, which we're holding in Huntington Beach, California, November 7th through the 9th. We had this event last year. It's going to be, I think, the go-to place for therapists in private practice to learn more about trends and what's going on in our field in terms of making a business out of it. We're going to be at the Shorebreak Hotel, but we haven't yet signed the contract. We're still negotiating with them, but we're going to be at the same hotel that we were at last time. We're expecting, we sold out last time in the room within about 3 weeks of announcing it. So I'm anticipating that's what's going to happen again this year. We are getting more space, hopefully, so that's what we're negotiating right now. So I wanted to remind you, it will only cost you $50 to attend because you get the special 75% off discount. And I may even charge more than $200 for it, but you guys are only getting it for $50 no matter how much I charge. So just to let you know, you have that option. Now, we will be announcing on about March 19th more details about it and get you set up. So I'm not recommending that you get your hotel reservations because, again, we haven't negotiated our contract and our special room rate yet. So don't do that yet. But save the date, November 7th through the 9th, and whatever travel you need to do. If you need to travel, start saving your money. I think the hotel was somewhere around $170, $180 plus tax or whatever. We're right across the street on the beach we're across the street from Huntington Beach, the actual beach. And it's a ball. I'm bringing my team to you. You'll meet my staff. So if you want to ask us questions about business building, we'll have Lindsay there and Chelsea there and Charity will all be there. Amber will be supporting us behind the scenes, although I would love, love, love to be getting there. Speakers, I'm in the process of negotiating with them. Andrea J. Lee, my business coach, will be back to MC. We will have Lisa Bowles will be there talking about your soul purpose, like how to tap into what your soul wants for you as a purpose. We're going to have Elizabeth Marshall there talking about, do you have a book in you and what to do with that. We're going to have Rashna Jain there, who is my personal SEO expert, talking about how to get more traffic to your website. And much, much, much more. We're going to have Mark Howard there, one of my Ruby clients, who's going to be talking about his building his institute and also about how to change our thinking and set ourselves up for success. So it is really going to be an amazing thing. And our whole goal is to make over your idea of your business, and that whether that's getting more clients, whether that's thinking about adding business models, whether that's expanding your view of who you are as a clinician. That is my goal for you. My goal is to make this be like the standout event. Some of you in the chat are telling me how much it meant to you last year, and it meant a lot to me too. So very excited. It is for therapists and coaches and healing professionals. We have all kinds of massage therapists and speech therapists and all other kind of people coming, as well as just psychotherapists and coaches. So more about that later as I continue to negotiate for about 3 more speakers. So love, love, love having you here. Save the dates for that, and then as soon as we announce it, you're going to want to go ahead and purchase your ticket for the event because, again, I'm anticipating that we're going to sell out way before the event, and the event's not until November, but we're going to be announcing it soon. First priority will be given to you and to the people who attended last year. So the hours of the conference, it will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it will be Wednesday all day, and then Thursday we have all day, and then we have an evening session, and then Friday will end probably about 4:30. All right, so Diane's coming from Vermont, and Lil's coming from Tennessee. Very exciting. Okay, so go finish and write your website. Go listen to the calls that are in the Resource Center. And let's make a plan that you get that website done in the next week and then get it on up there. And know that you can always change it. I mean, seriously, we're in the process of redoing the Be a Wealthy Therapist website. It ought to be up in another couple weeks. And I anticipate that as soon as I get it up there, something is going to change and I want to change it. So anticipate that. It's an ongoing thing and it doesn't have to be perfect. All right? Light and easy is our watchword. It ought to feel good sharing your wisdom with potential clients. All right. Love you guys. Mwah. Bye-bye.